Today is the last day of 2013, but the attack on reproductive rights for 2014 has already begun. Now you're probably thinking, how is that possible? Most people would think that. Well, all these things that we're about to go through right here, they are all pre-filed bills. Pre-filed bills, different types of legislative actions that state politicians are getting the ball rolling to make these changes. Let me give you a couple of examples here. Missouri wants to make women wait 72 hours before they can get an abortion. Tennessee is trying to get a direct ballot initiative for mandatory waiting periods and forced counseling sessions, something that the Tennessee Supreme Court blocked back in 2000, by the way. South Carolina wants to require abortion doctors to obtain admitting privileges from a local hospital in order to continue practicing. Maryland wants to ban abortion after 20 weeks. Alabama wants to pass a bill that would allow medical professionals to refuse to perform any services that violate their personal conscience. So let's go through these one by one because I want to give you the breakdown. So when it comes to Missouri making women wait 72 hours, they're trying to get that bill through in 2014. I always think that's so condescending to women. I always think about that because it assumes that a woman about to get an abortion hasn't thought about it already on her own and hasn't contemplated it and hasn't discussed it with her significant other, for example, or something like that. I mean, yeah, women definitely think about that a lot. It's a very major decision in their life. For the state to say, I need you to sit down and think about this before you do it, even though you've already thought about it, this is exactly the kind of big government that I thought Republicans are supposed to be against. They tell me they're always against this kind of big government, but they're not. When it comes to the Tennessee one, so they're trying to get a direct ballot initiative for mandatory waiting periods and forced counseling sessions. It's the same thing in my mind. Forcing a woman to go through counseling? No, they can make their own decision individually. Now, realize these are all just thinly veiled attempts to actually get rid of abortion. They want to disincentivize it as much as possible within the confines of the law. And in fact, oftentimes they just leave the confines of the law completely. And they say, no, we're just gonna pass a law that's blatantly unconstitutional. When it comes to South Carolina and wanting the doctors to go get to local hospitals to get permits in order to continue being an abortionist, you have to realize this is a trick. Because what they'll do is legislators will oftentimes go to the hospitals that are religious hospitals, and they'll say, don't give these guys permits, but we're going to pass a law that says in order to practice, they need to come to you for a permit. Or they'll mess with the timing, for example. So they'll pass a law that says you need to get a permit within a month, but the permit process takes 3 months, so they can't get a permit. These are all sleazy ways to try to achieve the end goal, which is banning and outlawing abortion, without actually writing down on the books, we are banning and outlawing abortion, because that would be unconstitutional. And then when it comes to Maryland, they want to ban it after 20 weeks. Now understand something. That's not all that radical if, and this is a big if, you allow the exceptions for life of the mother, fatal fetal defect, rape, and incest after that 20-week line. In fact, I'm with you if you say we're going to ban it after anywhere from 20 to 24 weeks, and then the only exceptions are the ones that I named. Because, look, I'm in favor of a moderate abortion policy. The American people, if you look at the polls, are in favor of a moderate abortion policy. And it all comes down to fetal viability, but also whenever the nervous system develops. That's where I draw the line. Whenever the nervous system develops in the fetus, that's when I think it's immoral to inflict pain to do an abortion. And that line is anywhere from 20 to 24 weeks and after. So I get it. I get it. But oftentimes these bills, like the one in Texas, for example, they didn't have the exceptions for life of the mother, fatal fetal defect, rape, and incest. They said everything is banned after 20 weeks. Well, that's crazy. And I should also mention that 90% of all abortions occur before 13 weeks in the United States. 90% occur before 13 weeks. So you're dealing with gametes, zygotes, embryos, and pregestation fetuses. So it's not killing. Oftentimes it's preventing a life form. Okay? And 98% of abortions occur before 20 weeks. So this is just another example of actually infringing on rights and infringing on Roe versus Wade and the fetal viability case, which happened later on, which kind of tweaked Roe versus Wade a little bit at the Supreme Court level. Now, the final one here, when they say they want to pass a bill that would allow medical professionals to refuse to perform any services that violate their own conscience, I mean, think about how big of a slippery slope that is. And so any doctor, because of their personal views, they could force that on us. So what happens when a doctor says, you know, I'm angry that my husband, for example, can't have sex anymore, so I'm going to refuse all Viagra prescriptions. No man can have Viagra. Or what happens when, let's say, somebody's had a personal experience where their son died of an overdose on heroin or something. Well, morphine is from the poppy plant also. They're very closely related. Morphine is very similar to heroin. So what? A doctor says, well, we don't do morphine at this hospital because I'm against it because of a personal experience. I mean, this is abortion, another perfect example. What happens if somebody goes at 12 weeks and says, I want an abortion, and they refuse it, right? And then people keep refusing it, and next thing you know, you're past 20 weeks, and now it would be a late-term abortion, which is much worse as opposed to an early one. No, you can't have people taking their personal opinion when they're the provider and pushing it on you. I mean, that's like me going to the grocery store. I buy this delicious, White Castle cheeseburger dinner, and I go to pay for it, and the cashier says, go back and pick something else. What do you mean pick something? I want to buy this. That's nice, but see, this is my, I'm the person who represents the store here, and this disagrees with my worldview. See, I'm on a diet, so I don't think you should be able to enjoy anything that I can't enjoy, so take it back and pick up something else. We got a nice salad in aisle 3. Well, that's ridiculous when you frame it like that, but this is the exact same thing. No, if you actually believe in small government, if you actually believe in, not having your personal decisions meddled with, well, then Republicans should go back to that and actually abide by it on principle and say, yeah, we're going to get out of your life, make your own decision. But they're not doing that. They're starting the attack on reproductive rights in 2013 for 2014.